Stop. Be honest with yourself. How long have you been waiting for someone who was never coming back? How many nights have you replayed the same conversations, imagined different endings, hoped for a different outcome? And the hardest question of all, why are you fighting for someone who already let you go? There's a silent pain in loving someone you cannot have. It is not loud, it does not scream, it whispers. It whispers in the quiet moments. It shows up when you check your phone. It lives in the what-ifs and the maybe someday. But here's the truth most people avoid. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not holding on. It is letting go. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. Today, this is your wake-up call. You're in love with the idea, not the reality. Most of the time, you are not attached to the person in front of you, you're attached to the version of them you created in your mind, the potential, the future you imagined, the story you carefully built where everything finally works out. You don't miss who they truly are, you miss who you hoped they would become. You replay the sweet conversations and the small moments that felt special, but you quietly ignore the inconsistency, the mixed signals, and the lack of effort. Because accepting the truth feels heavier than holding on to hope. It's easier to fall in love with potential than to accept that someone is not choosing you. You tell yourself they're just confused, just busy, just not ready yet. You believe that with enough patience, understanding, and love from your side, they will eventually see your value. But love is not about waiting for someone to realize what you already know. Love is about choice. Clear, intentional, consistent choice. If someone truly wants you, you will not be constantly questioning where you stand. You will not feel like you are competing for their attention or trying to decode their behavior. When you're attached to the idea of someone, you start filling in the missing pieces yourself. You justify their absence and romanticize their bare minimum. You turn small gestures into proof that something deep exists, even when their overall pattern shows distance. Your imagination becomes generous because it wants the story to survive. But imagination cannot replace effort, and fantasy cannot build a relationship. In your mind, they change. In your mind, they show up. In your mind, the ending is beautiful. But reality keeps repeating the same message through their actions. Clarity begins when you separate facts from feelings. The fact may be that they rarely initiate, they don't prioritize you, and their actions don't match their words. The feeling may be that you sense something special. Feelings are real, but they are not always proof that something healthy exists. Sometimes you're not grieving the person, you're grieving the future you imagined with them. You're mourning a possibility that never truly existed outside your thoughts. Staying attached to someone who is not choosing you becomes a quiet form of self-abandonment. You slowly lower your standards, tolerate confusion, and accept half-effort because you're emotionally invested in the dream. But hope without mutual action turns into emotional exhaustion. Your mood starts depending on their replies, your peace depends on their attention, and your confidence begins to shrink. That is not love. That's attachment mixed with fear of letting go. Real love feels steady, clear, and reciprocal. It does not leave you constantly anxious or guessing. When someone values you, it shows naturally in their behavior. You don't have to chase clarity because it's already there. The moment you stop romanticizing potential and start observing patterns, everything changes. You realize that if they wanted to, they would act differently. If they cared deeply, it would be visible. If they were ready, you would not be confused. You deserve to be chosen openly, not kept as an option. You deserve consistency, not uncertainty. So ask yourself honestly whether you're in love with who they are today or with who you hope they might become someday. Because the version in your imagination cannot show up for you. Only the real person can, and reality has been speaking to you all along. Waiting is a decision too. You may tell yourself you're just being patient, just giving it time, just holding on to hope. But hope, when it's not supported by action, can slowly turn into a trap. Every single day you stay in that space of uncertainty, you're not neutral. You're choosing. You're choosing to keep your heart invested in someone who has not clearly invested in you. You're choosing potential over proof, words over actions, and anxiety over peace. It feels passive, like you're simply waiting for things to fall into place. But waiting is active. It drains you quietly. It makes you overanalyze simple things and overvalue small gestures. You start treating basic decency as something special because you're starving for reassurance. You tell yourself that consistency takes time, that clarity will come later, that maybe they just need space. Meanwhile, your mind stays restless and your heart stays on hold. Confusion is rarely accidental. When someone truly wants to be with you, their actions reduce your doubts instead of increasing them. You don't have to guess where you stand. You don't have to decode mixed signals. Real intention creates clarity. Real interest creates effort. Real love creates security, not constant second-guessing. And the hardest truth is this: by continuing to wait, you're participating in your own uncertainty. You're allowing someone else's hesitation to control your emotional state. You're placing your peace in the hands of someone who has not proven they can hold it carefully. You're blocking your own blessings. While you remain emotionally tied to someone who's not fully present, you unknowingly make yourself unavailable to something healthier. Even if you say you're open to love, your heart is still occupied. You compare new people to the old story. You hesitate to invest. You hold back because a part of you is still waiting for someone else to finally choose you. And in doing that, you close the door to someone who might choose you effortlessly. You cannot receive new love with closed hands. If your hands are still gripping the past, there's no space to hold something better. Emotional attachment is not just about missing someone, it's about the energy you keep sending backward instead of forward. You replay memories, reread messages, imagine alternate outcomes, and all of it keeps you stuck in a chapter that has already shown you its ending. Sometimes the reason new opportunities don't stay is not because they're wrong for you, but because you're not fully available. People can feel when your heart is elsewhere. They can sense hesitation, guardedness, and comparison. And the right person won't compete with your past. They'll simply walk away if they feel you're not ready. Letting go feels like losing at first because you're releasing something familiar. Even if it was inconsistent or painful, it was known. The mind often prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. But letting go is not about losing a person, it's about releasing a pattern. It's about deciding that your future deserves more space than your past. When you finally loosen your grip, you create room. Room for clarity, room for stability, room for someone who doesn't make you question your worth. Space is powerful. Nature cannot fill a closed container, and neither can life. The moment you stop holding on to what's not choosing you, you make space for what will. Rejection is redirection. It hurts, of course it hurts. No one enjoys feeling unwanted or not chosen. But rejection is not humiliation, and it's not a statement about your worth. It's information. It's clarity. It's a door closing before you walk too far into a room that was never meant for you. We often take rejection personally. We turned it into a story about not being good enough, attractive enough, successful enough, or lovable enough. But most of the time, rejection is simply misalignment. Two people can both be valuable and still not be right for each other. Someone not choosing you does not reduce your value. It reveals their preference, their readiness, or their capacity, and that has more to do with them than it does with you. Sometimes life removes people from your path because you wouldn't have had the strength to leave on your own. You would have kept hoping, kept excusing, kept waiting for potential to turn into reality. So the situation collapses, the connection fades, the door shuts, and it feels unfair in the moment. But what if that ending is protection? What if you're being saved from months or years of deeper confusion, deeper attachment, and deeper pain?
What feels like loss today may actually be a shield. You may not see it now because pain narrows your perspective, but distance often brings clarity. You start to notice the red flags you once ignored. You realize how much anxiety you were carrying. You understand how much of yourself you were compromising just to keep something alive that was barely breathing. Rejection forces you to redirect your energy. Instead of pouring it into someone who cannot receive it fully, you're pushed to pour it back into yourself, into your growth, into your standards, into becoming emotionally stronger and clearer about what you truly deserve. It's uncomfortable, but it's powerful, because every redirection moves you away from what's not meant for you and closer to what aligns with your peace. You deserve to be chosen openly, not tolerated, not kept as a backup plan, not remembered only when
Emotional addiction feels like love. Be honest with yourself. Are you truly in love, or are you attached to the emotional highs and lows that come with the connection? The late-night messages that give you a rush, the small bits of attention that suddenly make your whole day better, the hope that maybe this time it will be different, then the disappointment when it is not, the silence, the distance, the confusion, and then again a little bit of affection that pulls you right back in. That cycle is powerful. It creates intensity, and intensity can feel like passion. But intensity is not the same as stability. When someone gives you inconsistent attention, your brain starts craving the reward. You hold on tighter because you never know when the next moment of closeness will come. The unpredictability makes it addictive. You start chasing the feeling instead of evaluating the reality. You may tell yourself that the connection is deep because it feels overwhelming, but sometimes what feels deep is just emotional turbulence. The constant shift between closeness and distance keeps you hooked. You are not only attached to the person, you are attached to the rush they create inside you. When they pull away, you feel anxious. When they come back, you feel relief. That relief feels like love, but it is often just temporary comfort from the anxiety they triggered. Healthy love does not feel like withdrawal when it is silent. It does not make you restless or insecure when a few hours pass without contact. It does not make you question your worth based on someone's response time. Real love feels steady, even in quiet moments. It does not depend on drama to feel alive. It does not require chaos to feel meaningful. If the connection feels like a roller coaster, ask yourself what you are truly holding on to. Are you building something stable, or are you just addicted to the emotional swings? Love should not feel like something you need to survive the day. It should feel like something that adds calm, not something that constantly tests your emotional strength. Closure is a choice. You may never get the explanation you crave, the apology you feel you deserve, or the recognition of the hurt that was caused. You may hope for someone to come back and make sense of everything, to validate your feelings, or to rewrite the past in a way that eases your pain. But the truth is, closure rarely comes from anyone else. It comes from within. It comes when you decide that enough is enough and that your peace is more important than lingering questions. Waiting for someone else to give you closure keeps you trapped in the past. You replay conversations, analyze actions, and hope for answers that may never arrive. You give your power away by tying your emotional state to someone else's choices. Silence from them can feel unbearable, but it can also be the clearest message of all. Their absence, their lack of explanation, their unwillingness to take responsibility is the answer you didn't want but needed. Choosing closure is about reclaiming control over your own story. It is about saying, I will not wait indefinitely. I will not let someone else's inaction dictate my happiness. Acceptance does not mean condoning what happened or pretending it did not hurt. It means acknowledging reality, respecting yourself, and refusing to let someone else's behavior continue to affect your peace. It is a quiet strength that allows you to move forward without bitterness. Closure is not a reward. It is an action.
It is your decision to stop replaying the past, to stop seeking validation from those who cannot give it, and to create space for healing and growth. The moment you choose it, you reclaim your power, and you open the door to clarity, peace, and the possibility of love that is real and reciprocated. You are romanticizing pain. You tell yourself that the struggle, the uncertainty, the constant emotional push and pull makes the love deeper. You convince yourself that every tear, every restless night, every anxious thought is meaningful because it will all make sense one day. You rewrite your reality in your mind, creating a story where the obstacles are signs of fate, where hardship is proof of a connection that is meant to be. But suffering is not evidence of destiny. It is a signal that something is misaligned. When you romanticize pain, you start excusing behavior that should never be acceptable. You interpret neglect as mystery, distance as intrigue, and inconsistency as charm. You gloss over red flags, telling yourself they are part of the journey, proof that love requires sacrifice. You may even believe that enduring hardship demonstrates your commitment, that patience in the face of confusion proves your depth of feeling. But in truth, you are training yourself to tolerate less than you deserve. Love should not feel like constant struggle. It should not make you question your worth or shrink your standards. Pain is natural in relationships at times, but when the pattern of hurt becomes routine, it is not a sign of devotion, it is a warning. Emotional suffering is not romantic. It is misalignment, a mismatch between what you need and what is being given. The longer you romanticize it, the longer you remain trapped in a cycle that erodes your peace and self-respect. Stop turning red flags into love stories. Stop convincing yourself that confusion, neglect, or inconsistency is part of a grand plan. Accept the reality for what it is, even if it is uncomfortable. True love does not require you to hurt to feel its depth. True love does not ask you to rationalize the chaos. It shows up clearly, consistently, and respectfully. Recognizing this is not cynicism, it's wisdom. Your self-respect is watching. Every time you chase someone who is indifferent, every time you beg for attention, every time you excuse behavior that would never be acceptable from someone who truly values you, your self-respect quietly erodes. Every time you lower your standards, tolerate inconsistency, or accept less than you deserve, you send a message to yourself that your worth is negotiable. And the truth is, it's not. You are not meant to shrink for someone else's comfort or compromise your dignity to hold on to a relationship that drains you. Rebuilding self-respect is far harder than letting someone go. Once it's damaged, it takes time, reflection, and boundaries to restore. You have to undo the patterns of rationalizing, excusing, and tolerating. You have to relearn what it feels like to demand clarity, respect, and genuine care. Letting go from the start saves you that long, painful work. It preserves your confidence, your peace, and your sense of worth. Protect your dignity at all costs. Self-respect is not pride in the negative sense. It's your inner compass showing you what is acceptable and what is not. It keeps you from settling for less than you deserve. It keeps you from investing your time, energy, and emotions where they will not be fully received. When you honor yourself, you create space for relationships that match your standards, that choose you wholeheartedly, and that make you feel secure rather than depleted. Your self-respect is watching. Listen and act before it is too late. The person you're becoming deserves better. You are growing, evolving, and transforming in ways that your past self could never have imagined. You are becoming stronger, wiser, and more aware. Every lesson you learn, every boundary you set, every ounce of self-respect you reclaim is shaping the person you're meant to be. And that future version of yourself cannot be confined to someone who cannot rise to meet you there. Holding on to what is misaligned only slows your evolution and keeps you tethered to patterns that no longer serve you. Moving on sometimes is not about forgetting them.
It's not about erasing the memories or pretending the connection never mattered. It's about choosing yourself, your growth, and the person you are becoming over the comfort of familiarity. It's about prioritizing the version of your life that aligns with your values, your peace, and your worth. Every step forward, even if it hurts, is an act of self-respect and faith in the future you are building. Your future self will thank you for having the courage to rise above attachment and make space for what is real, fulfilling, and aligned to your highest self. Now, let me ask you something powerful. If they walked away once, why are you still standing at the same door? The moment you stop chasing what rejects you is the moment you start attracting what respects you. If you think I provide you valuable content, then please like this video, follow, subscribe, and comment your thoughts in the comments section. Your support helps this channel grow and brings you more powerful growth doses.